guys, how's it going? What is happening? Welcome back to another video. Welcome back to New York City. I hope you enjoyed that short cinematic. That is just a sneak preview of what I've been up to for the last week. It's been a crazy one. For those of you that didn't watch the Q&A Sunday, my friends Matthew and Mitchell were in town. They actually surprised me. I had no idea. They just came out of nowhere and stopped in New York before they were heading off to Norway on a trip. So it was a great week and we got some amazing content, but I didn't really vlog any of it. I took so many photos and so many videos without really knowing what I was gonna do with it. And I was literally about to go out and shoot a vlog when I realized I have all of these photos and videos and I haven't shared any of it yet. So that is exactly what this video is. It's kind of a retroactive looking back vlog at the last week and discussing and showing you guys all of the photos that I've taken. So without further ado, let's get into it. We started off the week with Matthew and Mitchell arriving, and the first night we were treated to the best sunset I've seen in New York. Unfortunately, we weren't out in the city, but luckily our building has a rooftop and we managed to go out and sneak some photos. And it was just absolutely incredible. Just the colors that were coming through on the sky, the pop of the blue and the oranges and the reds and the pinks, and everything was just so good. And then just getting that silhouette in the foreground. This was probably my favorite photo of Mitchell sitting on the ledge with the sky in the background, silhouetted foreground, but then right in the foreground, there's just a slight reflection of the sky, just adding that bit of texture into the foreground and giving you that depth of field so it doesn't make it as flat. Again, the colors are incredible. The sky looks like it's on fire, and like I said, one of the best sunsets I've seen in New York. So we're off to a banging start with that sunset, so the trip had a lot to live up to. Fortunately, our second day also gave us some amazing photos. We started off by walking around in Brooklyn Bridge Park, showing the guys the view of the two bridges with Manhattan in the background. We started off with these shots under the tree overlooking the city and the bridge in the background. I just had Mitchell placed nicely in the center, and he's nicely framed by the trees on the top and the rocks on the bottom, with a beautiful backdrop of the city in the background. And then it was time for us to chill out and watch sunset. We found ourselves a nice seat on the boardwalk and watched as the sun set behind the city. Again, the colors started to pop in the sky. It wasn't as good as the previous night, but it was still something pretty special. Once the sun dropped behind the city and darkness came over us, it was so dark and scary. Not really, the city never really gets dark, but we decided to head for the subway, but not without stopping for some pictures first. Like, of course we would do that. So we found some pretty cool spots along the way. Managed to get some videos at this spot with smoke coming out the ground out of a drain cover, and it was so awesome. But I'm not going to show you all of these shots right now because I do have a special cinematic video coming at the end of this month. So stay tuned for that, because that is going to be a big one. I'll keep you updated on that though, so please stay tuned. But as we kept walking, we saw this really cool alleyway looking thing that was actually just scaffolding from construction. But it had such cool fluorescent lights in the background, and luckily I had this big bright light with me over here, as well as a red film gel that I bought. And we decided to set up shop just at the foreground of that alleyway and flick the light on, and we were left with some bangers. This shot I took of Quinn is my absolute favorite, probably one of my favorite photos I've ever taken. I don't know, it's just so cinematic. I love the darkness of it, as well as the color contrast, just having that blue in the background, and then just having Quinn lit up by that red light in the foreground. Also, just the leading lines leading into her as the main central focus point. Everything about this just works so well to me. So those are some bangers. Matthew also just managed to snap some up with me, also get some thumbnail shots for some future photo videos. And then we also got a funny one of Mitchell holding the lights in his face. After that, it was time to call it a day and we headed home to get some rest. The next day, we headed out to check out a New York classic, the public hotel found in the Lower East Side. The famous elevator that looks like there's a billion elevators all next to each other, but in fact, it's just one and there's mirrors on both sides. It's a really cool spot, so if you ever are in New York, definitely go check that out. But getting back to these photos, Mitchell snapped some up of me, getting that nice orange glow to the photos. I also got this really cool one of Mitchell as well, just getting a bit lower down and getting the reflection up of the roof, so you see the leading lines coming down into him as well. I also did play around with the editing just a bit. I really like blues more than I like oranges, so I wanted to get that color contrast between my orangey skin color, I guess, and the neon fluorescent blue color of the lights. Obviously the lights weren't blue, so I decided to take it over to Photoshop and play around with the editing. And after doing so, I was left with this image, which I think looks pretty cool. I personally prefer it to the orange, but let me know what you think. Do you prefer the orange or the blue? I'm gonna leave a little poll thing up in the top this side of the video, so just click on there and let me know which one you think is better. After the hotel, we decided to mission around the streets of Chinatown and find some fluorescent lights. Luckily enough, Chinatown has a million of those, so we found one with not too much effort. Matthew decided to be our supermodel for the day, standing in front of the neon lights, and I really just love how the light illuminates the one side of his face, giving it a little bit of color but still keeping that natural skin tone in the foreground. One of my favorite parts about the spot as well is that there was a kitchen on the other side, and it was really hot and steamy in there, so it was creating condensation on the windows. So you can really see the texture on the left hand side of the photograph with the water dripping down. If we take that a step further, I decided to get some shots of the chef cooking in the background with its window in the foreground. Like I said, I just love the texture, and shooting through it created a really nice depth of field. Really happy with how those shots turned out. It was something a lot more cinematic and artsy from the photos I normally take, but I really enjoyed it, and I definitely want to look at doing more of those going forward. On the way back to the apartment, I decided to get some last minute shots of Matthew out on the subway, him just looking like a hype beast, really doing his thing. Fast forward one day forward, we went on a moody, misty mission out to the Freedom Tower, and it was so cool seeing the Freedom Tower go up into the clouds, and I got some really banging shots. I love the colors that came out in this shoot. Mitchell also just snapped up this photo of me standing next to the Oculus building. I also decided to Photoshop some lens flares into the foreground, just adding a bit more of an aesthetic to it, filling up the foreground with a bit more color. And then it was really cool how the Oculus was just coming in all the way over me with me looking up at the lights. But my favorite picture of the night was for sure 100% this picture of Mitchell leaning over a railing with the Freedom Tower up going into the clouds. I just love the colors. I love the minimalist approach to it, just having Mitchell as almost silhouetted in the foreground, but not really. You can still see some light catching the side of his face, so you still can see him. Again, the colors on the Freedom Tower and that minimalist negative space up on the top, I just, love this photo. Rating out of 10, what would you guys give this photo? Let me know up there again. After that, we needed to get some rest because we had a big day ahead of us. This was my filming day for the cinematic video that is going to come out, which is 24 hours in New York City, and we were literally filming the whole entire day and night and got some epic footage as well as some epic photos. So just to go through it really quickly, I don't want to give too much away because I want to keep the locations and the shots I got as a surprise for the cinematic video. So I'm just going to show you a few. We started out in Dumbo, but then went onto the Brooklyn Bridge. For sunrise, Mitchell got some shots of me sitting on the ledge of the bridge with the city in the background. Posted this one on my second account, which is Dean Tucker. So if you guys want to see some more personal shots of me, you can check out my second account. Also got the shot of Mitchell walking on the bridge with the leading lines going into the center point. I really just love that golden light coming through as well. It was so perfect. But after that, we decided to head to the Staten Island ferry, and this is also where I took one of my favorite shots I've ever taken. Again, super cinematic, very filmic in a way. Not something I would normally post on my Instagram, but I actually did, and it was this shot of the inside of the ferry, and because it was sunrise, there was still that golden light coming through the side of the boat, and I played with the colors, played with the contrast, and it just turned out to be this beautiful, simple moment, but the lighting is so perfect. Up next, we hit it up the Fulton Street station. This is the famous subway shot you see on Instagram all the time, which is looking up at this cool dome-like looking structure. Managed to get a few ones of that, nothing super special. My favorite one was probably this one of Mitchell silhouetted in the foreground, just so you have a subject in it instead of just the dome structure at the top. After that, we went through an entire day of shooting, getting awesome shots all around. But again, like I said, I don't want to give too much of that away. But I will give you a sneak preview of the rooftop that we went onto. And these photos were... These were for sure some of my favorite photos I've taken in New York. I'm gonna start off with this one. It is a composite image, meaning it's a lot of different photos put into one image. So we first did a shot of the three of us standing in the center on the rooftop with New York in the background, but then also did kind of a panoramic shot as well, getting multiple other images and then stitching that together in Photoshop to form this image that you are seeing right now. I also added in this lens flare just to give it some cool effects. And like I said, it was just a breathtaking experience, and this photo really encapsulates that moment, that feeling that we were feeling out there on the rooftop. For those of you that did notice as well, the Empire State Building is not actually in that position. I did Photoshop it in, but as you can see from these images of Matthew, the Empire State Building is in that background. And again, these were some awesome photos taken on the rooftop. We had Matthew climb out onto the scaffolding of the water tower, getting the Empire State Building in the background. One thing I loved about these shots as well was the colors that came through, the cool blues after the sun had set, as well as the warm glow of the lights coming through the windows of the buildings. Lastly, Mitchell snapped up this shot of me with his 100mm lens, just getting the Empire State Building in the background and me looking at it in the foreground. Once again, just loving the colors. I love the composition as well. With that, we wrapped up sunset and had to grab a $1 slice before we headed to Times Square. And as we were on our way there, it started to downpour so heavily, but we still pushed through it and managed to get some really cool shots. If you saw the thumbnail of my last video, Matthew managed to snap some photos of me standing in front of this giant neon American flag, and all he did was move parallel with the flag, so he got this really cool perspective with the lights leading onto the side of my face and making for such a cool portrait. I feel like this video is going on for way too long now, and I don't want to give away any more secrets as to all of the locations that we went to on our 24-hour shoot, but shortly after Mitchell and Matthew left New York City for Norway, very sad times, but it was such a great week and we got such great content. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing all of the photos. Please let me know what you think down in the comments below. In saying that, I'm going to wrap up this video here. Thank you again so much for watching. I really do appreciate all the support that this channel has been getting recently, and I'm loving the growth that we are getting. Let's go for that 100K as soon as we can, so share this video with any of your friends that might like photography as well. In the meantime, I'm going to leave this here. Remember to stay weird, don't die, and make it happen. I'll see you guys in the next one.